Hello everyone. I am not Shelly Bernal, your presenter for today. My name is Brian Van Hook and I'm with the Florida SBDC at FIU. We're a center under the College of Business at FIU and we focus on business growth. We focus on helping you grow your business, either start your business or grow your business. Today's webinar is approximately 35 minutes. It's with our great international trade specialist Shelly Bernal, and she's going to talk to you about sustainable strategic growth. Before I introduce Shelly, I just wanted to give you a couple of points about SBDC and what we do, and then I'll introduce Shelly. And also I would encourage you guys to save your questions that come up during the presentation because we're going to save time at the end to answer some of your questions. And if we don't get to your questions, you can type them in the chat and we'll get them and follow up with you via email or via phone call as well. So I just want to thank you again for your attendance at the webinar. The SBDC network is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration. So we're a federal resource partner of the SBA. We are a member of the Florida SBDC network that stretches all the way from the Panhandle down to Key West. Our center, as I mentioned, focuses on business growth. We do that in two ways. Number one, we focus on one-on-one business consulting. So we can help you in terms of international trade, government contracting, access to capital, marketing, HR issues, business planning and strategy. We also have access to a lot of information, data, market research through FIU and through the Florida SBDC network. We also have some specialized services as well. And we also do trainings and workshops and events and webinars as you're watching today. Our particular center under FIU and under the College of Business, our geographic focus is on Miami-Dade County, and we also assist businesses in Monroe County as well. So if you're in Miami-Dade County and Monroe County, we're your center, we're your go-to center. If you're in other areas such as Broward, Palm Beach, Orlando, Pensacola, we have other centers in your area that are local to you, so you can send us a note and we'll get you connected with your local SBDC. But if you're in Miami-Dade County and Monroe County, we are your local SBDC. And the best part of our services is that we don't charge, it's no cost. I don't say it's free because we have to pay the consultants to work with you, but it is no cost to you because it's subsidized by your federal and state tax dollars as well as FIU and other partners assisting the center. This just has some information on what our center has done since 2014. We are very focused on getting outcomes for our clients, and we also track that because we get federal and state funding. So it's a really great program in terms of assisting you guys and helping you focus on business growth, and it's a win-win situation. Like, you want to grow your business and we want to help you grow your business. This is just a shot of our team. We have 16 business specialists, including Shelly. They're all business specialists. They're not jack of all trades, master of none. Each one is a specialist in a particular area. As I said, international trade, government contracting, access to capital, marketing, and they're all focused on helping you in that particular area. And the great thing is, as a center, we work very collaboratively. So if you work with one consultant such as Shelly, if you need help in another area, she can refer you to another consultant and they can work in tandem to help you grow your business. So it's a really great program. So with that, I'm going to ask Shelly to come down and start the presentation. And again, you'll see me at the end where I'm going to come up and answer some of your questions that you have. So thanks again for watching. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian, for that introduction. And today we're going to talk about sustainable strategic growth. Thank you for all of the planners interested in this topic. Essentially, what we want to do is plan the future growth of the company in a way where you're not constantly hitting roadblocks and in a way that you're optimizing all of your resources, human resources, capital resources, investments, everything. So with business growth, technically the definition is to either grow your top line of revenues, sales, or grow the bottom line by reducing your expenses and your costs. And with strategy, we're talking about a plan which brings about the future that you want. It's the art and the science of planning and marshaling the resources for the most efficient and effective use. And it truly is an art and a science, and so that's more of what we're going to talk about today, is the strategy of business growth. Sustainable strategic growth is essentially the strategy part of, do you have a plan to grow? Are you on target to hit your plan and grow? Do you have plans to grow in the next years, in the upcoming years? And on the growth side, did you run out of employees this year? Did you run out of product or unable to deliver on your services to your customers? Did you outgrow your cash, your capital? Did you run into problems in that area? And finally, are you the owner participating in the business in the management capacity, leading the organization and laying out the road for the future? Or are you on the front lines, a technician actually doing all of the work, and nobody is captain of that ship? The repeatable process of planning and implementation and how they continue along is exactly what we will be discussing today with sustainable strategic growth. One of the building blocks of a business is the strategic structure. And this may be a new terminology for you, but this is the regular process for guiding your company's strategic choices. So the choices that are made in a business are through a process that is repeatable. How do you consistently get your company to invest its time, talent, attention, and money into the right things in the face of so many different demands crying for attention? That is essentially what we're talking about today. And at its most basic form, your strategic structure is how your business rationally and effectively plans its pathway forward as you scale. There are 6 components to this process, and they are not in a linear line, steps 1 through 6. It's very much back and forth always, and that's why having the structure in place to support this is essential. The business is constantly reevaluating the situation, the objective, the strategies, the plans, and going back and forth between all of them. That's why I have in this graphic arrows and cogs, because they're constantly interacting with each other. So I'll briefly go over each of these 6 before going more into depth on them, but this is a way to organize the information. The situation analysis is essentially what is happening, why. You want to look at the external, what's outside of your control, and the internal state of the business. How are you doing, and how are you doing in comparison to your competitors? One way to do this is through the SWOT analysis. The strengths and weaknesses, the opportunities and threats. The strengths and weaknesses are internally focused, and the opportunities and threats are externally focused. At the end of this process, you should come up with an SCA. That is a significant competitive advantage. This is the unique combination of factors that gives you the advantage over your competition. The characteristics is that this has to be important to your consumer. It cannot just be some way that you're different that doesn't resonate with your customer base. It needs to be something that you have, that your competition does not have, but would want it. That is very difficult to get. Those 3 characteristics of a competitive advantage. And I'll give you an example on this, because many times the companies I'm working with kind of gloss over the competitive advantage, and it really lays the foundation for everything else that you're doing within the company. So one example is that I was working with a company that used customer service as their competitive advantage. They already do that better than their peers. They know that. They have put a significant amount of time and effort into developing the processes written down, very formal, the processes for the company, the descriptions for every position, everything was documented and trained on. And as we started looking at how we can improve the customer service even further, what we found was that there's a formal culture and an informal culture within the business. So even though we had everything laid out, it wasn't necessarily that the business was following those processes. And an informal culture had kind of surfaced and become the mode of operandum. And this became extremely difficult to repair because everything that was written down was how it was supposed to work, and that was how it would work. But that's not what people were doing. And in discussing it with the team, we found out that the team members felt that there was too much to do and that they were making choices and decisions about what the priorities are if they are faced with a limited amount of time and too many things needed to be done. They made choices as to what the priorities were. Sometimes those choices were not exactly lined up with the competitive advantage of customer service. And that is essentially where the breakdown was occurring. The nature of customer service is very cross-functional. It requires coordination across every department. And this is where we eventually decided that we needed to spend a second phase of development to achieve true excellence in customer service. So that's a small example of how important the SCA is for your business. The objective is for the entire company. It is what success looks like. It should be described using specific, measurable, aggressive, realistic, and time-specific verbiage. An example would be grow the company by 15% over the next 12 months, focusing on the 2 new service areas with a target customer in a particular channel and geography. That's for the entire company to achieve, and everyone in the company should know how they align up with that objective. And that's what the strategy is about. It's essentially you have the situation analysis where you're at, you have the objective where you want to be, and the strategies are how you get from here to there. One thing I would like to point out here is that the strategies is we. It is about every department and every person within the departments must be able to understand how they're connected with the strategies and to the objective. So this is not an I, it's not the owner sitting down saying this is what we're going to do and then announcing it to everyone. It really is a process of we. And that brings the owner to a place of an owner-independent business where you are reliant as a company more on systems than on a manager giving directions. With the strategies, one of the easiest way to start working on them is to compare the SWOT with the competitor SWOTs and work from those aspects. How can you leverage your strengths against their weaknesses, and creating a number of potential strategies for each of your departments. And the plans are the activities, the specific and detailed actions and resources that are necessary to execute on the strategies. And the execution is the action. It is making everything happen. During the execution, the following points should be paid attention to. That is monitoring the unfolding results so that you can watch what you're expecting to see and then what you're unexpected to see and make adjustments to these ongoing changes. and keep all the key players, both internally and externally, involved and informed. And all along the way, we want to have a system set up to measure everything so that we can tell if things are changing and if we are changing accordingly. So we want to measure externally, maybe have alerts set up on our internet searches. We want to monitor internally with our functional areas. And so for us now, we're going to go a little bit more in depth into each one of these. With the situation analysis, your SBDC has subscriptions to different databases where we can provide you with excellent industry and market information, which can help you form a clear picture of the external, the out of your control situation. This is just one example of an industry that states the total revenue size in the US, as well as the number of businesses in the US in that industry. Breaks down the business in terms of products and segments. The report also breaks down into the market segments, the types of customers that industry has, as well as the exports and imports for that industry, and financial ratio breakdowns, which is great for benchmarking to find out if your company is benchmarking against the averages for your industry or not. We also have a subscription to another database for consumer products that allows us to dig down really deep into the market. For example, on ice cream, we are able to give you information about how large the impulse ice cream segment is, how large the take-home ice cream segment is, and even how large the with milk and non-dairy segments are. We can even show the growth and the sizes of very specific markets like organic ice cream. And this information is all provided at no cost to our customers to assist you in the situation analysis during your strategic planning process. On the strategies, I take information from two excellent resources that I encourage everyone to also learn about. They have ebooks and other information to continue your education on this topic. What I pulled out was the CEO Brain, which is a breakdown of the amount of time and resources that the CEO or the higher upper management should be spending their time on the business. And as you can see with the sizes, the areas of strategy and planning, so that's vision, long-term, and the area of people, human resources, are by far the two largest areas. And I would bet that with most business owners, they actually spend more of their time on the sales and marketing, on the operations, or delivering the services to their clients, and on the cash and finance side. And as you can see, if we had 5 days in a week, we would probably, as a CEO, be spending 1 day on strategy and planning and 2 days a week just on people. The other 2 days a week on a mix of the other 3 components. And that is a really hard target to hit, but that's what we're going to be walking through today as well. On the essential point of the strategy and planning is, are you working on your business? And is anyone in the business actually guiding it forward and laying the groundwork for where you're driving very fast? Or is no one driving it and we're all just doing it the best we can to stay afloat? That means at some point you are going to eventually reach your limits because you didn't plan ahead to lay out and move forward as fast as possible and scale your business. The people side is developing a winning management team, but it's not only having the right people in the right places. It is also assigning plans and authority to those people. And this is the part about the coordination and the cross-functional departments and how they work together that is so critical. So it's not just hiring and firing and handling employee problems. That's not what this 2 days a week is about. It's essentially about trying to find out where the workflow processes are falling down in your company between departments or between people, and then digging into it deeper to find out what is actually happening and clarifying the roles, the responsibilities, the authority between all the players so that your goals as a company can be accomplished smoothly across all the departments. This is one of the more difficult tasks, and I would say that it definitely takes a couple of days a week to be able to handle that as an owner of a business with 40, 50 more employees. On each of these functional areas of a business, there should be strategies that take the business to the objective, the outcome you're trying to reach. Two of the hardest ones are strategy and planning and people. And so I'm going to give examples on the strategy and planning component. One of the things I would encourage is trying to measure each of these strategies in ways that are not just finite, quantifiable measurements, which we're all very accustomed to, KPIs, key performance indicators in a business, but also things like each team member has a clear understanding of the company's big picture goals, strategy, and priorities. This can be done with a survey, and whatever the responses are this year, try to improve upon it over the course of the next year. And that's how you can measure if you're getting better at this part of communication and understanding across the company entirely. Of course, with each one of the functional areas, you can also use quantifiable measurements. In this case, because we're discussing the entire operation, we would be looking at gross revenue, gross profit percent, and net income as examples. And next, I will go more into the plans section. This is where people really try to do too much and not get anything accomplished. So whenever I hear businesses tell me, we've been planning to do this for 3 years and we still haven't done it, I start to look at how they are trying to do it. What are the plans? Because if you put plans together with 36 action items on top of the day-to-day work that someone has, they are not going to be able to accomplish it. And that's how your plans, your goals, don't get done year after year. A good rule of thumb is this: make a quarterly plan of action. This is for each of your functional areas. In there, you only can pick 3 focus areas, and on each one of those, you want to clarify the success for each of the 3 focus areas and lay out your steps with milestones. Those are deadlines for that quarter. And a format that I've seen used before is this one, where you really clarify what is happening, who is doing it, what are the timelines, and make it small and doable in addition to their day-to-day jobs. And in this way, every quarter, you're actually moving closer and closer to accomplishing your objective. One tool that we have as a database that we have a subscription to for this section of the process is partner searches. We have a subscription to a database where we can compile lists of companies. These are classified under industry codes. So if one of your plans is to research a particular customer channel, or even target, sell to, market to a particular customer channel, we can assist with starting the process of creating a target customer list from a search. In this case, I did a search in Canada of grocery wholesalers and ended up with 12,000 results. So it's a pretty robust database. On the execution, this is where we run into a few challenges usually. And with that, there is some data out there that has been done to prove that it's not just small businesses or large businesses, but it's pretty much across the board that everyone has problems in what they call execution. In this case, there was an article, Why Strategy Execution Unravels by the Harvard Business Review, and I pull from that to explain a few areas to pay attention to. The 5 myths of strategy execution are: execution equals alignment, execution means sticking to the plan, communication equals understanding, a performance culture drives execution, and execution should be driven from the top. I'll go into each one of these. The first one, execution equals alignment. So the problem here is that managers are focusing on the hierarchy. So very much so each functional area of the business, and pushing down to everyone below to follow more closely and adhere to the plans more closely. And what this does is that it does not necessarily improve the coordination between the departments in a business. So if your problem is isolated to one department, that could be a great strategy. But if it's something like customer service, which requires more coordination, that particular attempt to improve execution is not going to help. It's actually going to make it worse. So with trying to improve coordination, what we want to do is try to dig in the flow of the process between each department and where things are falling down, and try to assist in creating processes and clarifications on how that can move more smoothly. The second myth is execution means sticking to the plan. And this one I do think is more across the board with larger businesses. My problem with smaller businesses generally is not sticking to a plan. And so I would like to clarify here that being agile does not mean chasing every opportunity that comes along. There is a balancing act between chasing opportunities and putting behind it a system, a company that can actually achieve it, and changing your strategy every day in a sense that the whole team is just left doing what they're told and not really participating in the structure of the business and moving it forward. This one I see all the time, the communication equals understanding. And the general rule is that people don't understand what's happening. I just need to keep telling them more and more often so that they will get it. And the solution generally is to keep the messages simple and consistent, and try to lead the discussions so that you can hear from everyone what their interpretation of this information is and how it specifically applies to their jobs. So essentially what you want is for each person to know how their day-to-day prioritization choices stick to the objective, the strategy, and the objective. If there's no connection between here and there, then you really don't have someone participating in moving the company forward, because they don't see how they connect to it at all. On the fourth myth, it is a performance culture drives execution. And this is very much, we're going to set up the key performance indicators and we're going to measure against them and we're going to give bonuses to people on them, and that's how we're going to drive execution. And that's fantastic, except that it can diminish cross-departmental coordination. And this is the area where you would want to be cognizant of balancing out the numbers with something that's more qualitative, not just quantifiable. Some of the behaviors that do support execution are ambition, agility, experimentation, and collaboration. And think about how you can set up quantifiable key performance indicators to measure and drive those behaviors. That's why you need the qualifiers, not just quantifiable information. You need something that's more qualitative to measure your performance. A great example is someone who is on the operations side of the business, the fulfillment side of the business. They have received a product that needs to be shipped out, and they can tell that this doesn't look right. Something about it doesn't look right, but they're being measured on how many of those boxes they get out every day. They're not being measured necessarily on whether someone else in another department made an error or overlooked something, or a combination of two departments led to a confusion at this level. So if I were that person and being measured on a quantifiable number of how many packages to go out, I'm just going to send it out. Let it be what it be, because I'm getting rewarded for that. If I'm being rewarded for trying to collaborate and experiment and look for solutions to real problems, then I would take a step back, bring it to everyone's attention, and try to come up with a solution to avoid this in the future. Not only solve this problem, but also solve the process which led to this problem, which surely will lead to it again. That is why both areas need to be emphasized by the owner of the business between all the departments. And the final myth is execution should be driven from the top. The problem with this is that the managers don't really learn how to lead, and they're just doing what they're being told. So they don't have the decision-making skills to be able to support and assist the development of the business as it grows and scales. Eventually, one person is not going to be able to lead the entire company. And so the solution is to really work with the managers about making the tough calls. That's part of that 2-day a week on people that the owner needs to be doing. It's, okay, they made some bad judgment calls. We need to go through the thought process and the decision-making process of how we arrived there and why you would have recommended a different decision, so that they can continually learn and improve on that. And that's a very time-consuming process. So that's why those 2 days are there for the owner. Eventually, when you have the support of more people in the company, you will be able to scale faster and more smoothly without hitting any limits. And that's ultimately the goal of a sustainable growth strategy in a business. And then we arrive at a brand new definition for execution instead of making it happen and implementing the plans. We now have seizing strategic opportunities while coordinating across the company and adjusting as needed. Essentially, as you're monitoring the results, you are reallocating resources. As you are adjusting the plans, you are helping the company to be more agile. And as you are keeping all the players informed, you are improving the coordination. And the word external is there because we have suppliers, we have vendors, and we also have customers that we need to be coordinating and communicating with as well. So the sustainable strategic growth is the business growth, either the top line growth or the bottom line diminishing of costs, and the strategy, the art and science of planning and marshaling the resources for their most efficient and effective use. And the question is, do you have the building block of strategic structure in your business? If you are ready, this is your regular process for guiding your company's strategic choices. The process, the plan, and the implementation. And if you are ready to take your business to the next level, the FSBDC at FIU is the answer you've been looking for. We provide customized, personalized, one-on-one counseling with qualified, experienced instructors. I meet with over 100 different companies every year. So over the course of years, we start to learn from the companies that we work with as well, and we're able to help you with that information. It is also convenient because it's not in a classroom setting where you can only get this information on Tuesday nights. It's a non-academic format scheduled at your convenience. And did I mention that it is no cost to you? You receive confidential, professional, strategic consulting at no cost. Our services include financial management, access to capital, international trade, marketing and digital strategies, as well as government contracting, business plans, improving operations and business-to-business sales. And we use the databases that we have subscriptions to pull market research and company information for you to be able to create and implement on your strategy. And my name is Shelley Burnell with the FSBDC at FIU.
Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, guys. I know we had a lot of good content and good information, and we had a couple of questions from you guys that you submitted. If we didn't get to your question, or if you have an additional question that comes up, feel free to include it in the chat, and then we'll get it connected to Shelley, and then she can circle back and get you the information you need. And as Shelley said, we're happy to be a resource for you, happy to help you grow your business. We're also very collaborative. If there's other resources you can take advantage of in the community, we're happy to connect you to those resources as well, because it is really like a collective group effort to help you grow your business. So with that, let's get into the questions. We had 2 specific questions. The first one was, I am a startup, I don't have many employees. This information is really helpful and insightful, but how does this apply to me if I don't have like a big team, a big organization?
And that's actually a great question. I have used the components of this with startups or single owner businesses in lieu of a business plan. So the business plan should be a working document guiding your future. And if that is too structured and formal and cumbersome for you, I would suggest working through this process, the situation analysis with the SCA, the objective, etc.
Cool. And then the second question was that some of this presentation dealt with aspects of organizational structure and HR issues. Is HR something that SBDC and FIU can help me with?
Yes, you're exactly right. This does touch on how people within an organization work together. And that's one of the benefits of working with someone who has worked with hundreds of other companies, is that we start to see common pitfalls. And we start to learn what are the easiest ways to fix these, kind of tips and tricks of the trade. And this type of information we can pass along. Many business owners haven't had the opportunity to see the inner workings of hundreds of other businesses. And so they don't know what other people are doing to make this work. We don't really get into the legal aspects of human resources, and that's not really what this is about. It's more about having an outside observer provide you with feedback that you can use to try to improve the operations even between people, human resources within your company.
Yeah, and as Shelley mentioned, basically we can't do legal or tax advice. We have resources in the community we can connect you with, but we can help you. We have specialists involved in business strategy, business operations, also HR issues as well. So those are things that we can help you with. So with that, we didn't have any additional questions submitted as of when I came down here. But if you have any additional questions, please put it in the chat or send us an email. And also you have Shelley's email as well. And we just want to thank you guys again for your time. And we look forward to having some additional webinars and content for you as well. So thank you and have a good day.
Thank you.